I'm going to do a speedy ramp start in the A-10 here. It's an A-10, technically, I guess it's an A-10A, although I think in BMS they call it A-10C, but it has an A-10A cockpit, and I don't know much more than that. First things first, though, we need to make sure gross weight is under 46,000 pounds, and really I want it under 42 or 3,000 pounds, so it doesn't seem to be able to take off too well without that. So you might want to reduce fuel. I'll leave it at 10,000 pounds of fuel today because gross weight with my relatively light loadout is under 42 or 3,000 pounds. Set the laser code. The important things for the A-10 to carry are the jammer and the little targeting pod here, which is technically not a targeting pod, but the reason I'm not equipping a sniper pod, which you could, is I'm not sure if it conflicts or not with this little guy here. So I'm just going to leave this and save the data cartridge and go to ramp. Okay, sitting here on the ramp, master arm and laser arm safe. First thing is to close the cockpit with this lever over here. Just like in the F-16, you can close it before you turn the battery on and silence some of the noise, keep the rain out. And I'll go through this quick. Battery power on, generators on, that's just one click. Manual air supply on, this is all left click. TK gate open. APU start, this little button here. And waiting for 20% on these RPM gauges right here. There's other RPM gauges here. The fan, that's not going to move yet. In the meantime, can check lights. They have you setting the anti-collision, formation lights up, wing to flash, main lights on. Alright, and I think we can power on the console and the flood preemptively here for the cockpit. Coming up to 20%. My physical throttle is in idle right now. Next step is to, right where it says idle off here, this little button here, landing gear warning silence, is actually the idle detent. So you can left click that as soon as we're stable at 20%, and you shouldn't have a hung start. I'll set the radios real quick. UHF, VHF, missile threat, radios to main, preset. Temps coming up. Temps stable, just under 6. Oil pressure, APU, fuel flow, everything looks good. Okay, over to the right hand side here. It's really hard to do this with the track IR curves in the A-10 for some reason. Should adjust this. INS to normal fast align. Data link, as I understand it, even though it says DEST. DED. Upfront controls. Countermeasures to manual. You have to actually click what it says here, not the knob. Versus the program, a left click, right click for your countermeasure program. Okay, lights are set. That takes care of everything back here. The DED went through its bit test, it's aligning. Okay, got a few things to press up here on this. This is like the threat warning on the F-16. EWS, TWS, jammer, chaff, and flare. 5 buttons to press there. This is the ECM from off to operate. Now, once you give consent with CMS down, this will illuminate blue once you're airborne and everything. XMIT, I'm going to go to XMIT 2. I have mapped Shift 2. Sends me to XMIT 2. And programs 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 for me are Shift 1, Shift 2, Shift 3, Shift 4, and Shift 5 on the number pad. I've mapped all that. So my ECM should work just like I usually have it in the F-16 now. Alright, done here for now. We'll just have to come back over here and throw it into align nav once we're above 4.0 here on the left hand side of that slash. Right in front of me here, fire control, computer, mechanical fusing, one click, SMS, AIM-9. I'm not exactly sure about this. It doesn't seem to hurt it to put it into mode select and use dogfight mode to cool it. Gun rate from low to high. It's just standard. EO power on. HUD brightness. There's also a day-night, which you can map separately. Oh, never mind, there isn't. Okay, and this is drift compensate right here. I'll set that now. And that takes care of things up front, except parking brake doesn't, I'm not exactly sure where that is. Alt P sets the parking brake. Back to the left side here. So radios are set. We've got a couple switches to throw here. MFD just came on. GPS. That's all for here. Flaps are currently set to half. Now this little switch, you can click it around, but it doesn't actually move. You probably want to map some controls. I could not find the controls for half flaps, but I've got the controls for full flaps. So setting full flaps. Takeoff trim. This may be a trim reset button. It does not set it to anything resembling a takeoff trim. It just doesn't change it from neutral, that's for sure. So I'm going to leave that alone. Okay, we are all set here. We can do nose wheel steering and taxi light, which I couldn't find working buttons for. Or maybe that's landing light. Anyways, I mapped it. Okay, now we have some things to do that are not covered in the A-10 RAM start guide that's included with BMS, which is just pretty incomplete. I'm going to pull up the test page on my MFD just like I would in the F-16. Clear the faults. You can see Flickus comes back. So Control Alt F5 is a Flickus reset. One of the lights extinguished here. I can now clear this. You'll want to check your controls to make sure that's your setup as well. Okay, I can tell you this bottom light right here is not, I forget what the heck. Anyways, it's not what it's supposed to be in the A-10. It's Cat 1.3. You want to throw it into Cat 3 if you're heavy on the ramp. And once this illuminates in the air, because you're low enough on store weight, you can throw it into Cat 1. Anti-skid, I'm not sure why this comes on. Seat arm, that's easy. Couple went out there. Anti-skid should extinguish soon. We're ready to align here. Can't forget to do that. Once we align, bullseye shows up. We'll get out of the test page, bring up the HSD. For some reason my TGP disappeared here. Okay. A couple other switches to throw here, which are not mapped. Shift F4 for me is probe heat. We'll go back to the main DED page here. You can see that my IFF is off. I think I have a Control N sets IFF to normal. Got a new light there. It says IFF mode. Let's see. I think this is something from my data cartridge in the, I did not get an IFF set up properly in the TE builder, so that's the only issue here. Normally that works fine if you set it to normal. Okay. I just had to set mode 4 and now it's happy. That's not, you shouldn't usually have to do that. Uniform to 2, Victor to 15. Laser code. Laser code set. And to combat. Joker bingo, etc. Alright, looking good. Um, Other switches that are not mapped, besides IFF, we've got the ILS. I'll set up Kunsan's TACAN 56, X-ray, runway 36 it looks like, which is, the ILS frequency is 11030, 356, transmit receive, you can press, cycle this over to ILS TACAN. Even though this isn't fully functional, you will get ILS steering on the HUD. ILS off, control, I have to look this one up for the ILS volume because there isn't a knob for it over here. Okay, Control Shift Y for me, it turns the ILS volume on, and I turn it all the way up there. That'll give you that beacon volume. And here's some ILS cues in the HUD. Anti-ice. For me, I have Control N. That's anti-ice to auto. Okay, going through my checklist here. Canopy, parking brake, all the power, all the lights, start the engine, weapons stuff, GPS, MFD, DED. I never loaded the DTC, did I? Oh, I can't remember. Oh yeah, we're good. DTC is loaded. HUD, radios, threat warning, ejection seat, INS to nav, taxi lights, parking brake off, upfront controls, nose wheel steering, IFF normal, ILS volume up, flap set to full, anti-ice, radar altimeter, Control Shift B, I can turn that on, flick is reset, and a couple things I didn't have here. I didn't have my probe heat here. Okay. So, I just need a radar altimeter. Control Shift B steps it up. Looks like it's already on somehow. Control Shift. Yeah, it was already on. I must have done that somehow. Oh yeah, I did do that by accident. Okay. Now, I think we're about ready to taxi here. Throttle up, parking brake automatically clicks off just like the F-16. I think this anti-skid light's going to go away in a second here. For takeoff, we're just a little bit heavy in this aircraft. Okay, at least there's a pretty good headwind rather than a crosswind here. So that's going to be great. I shouldn't have to use as much rudder, but if there's a crosswind, get ready to use a lot of rudder. Keep yourself on the runway. You might even have to leave nose wheel steering engaged. And as soon as you rotate 180 knots for a heavy aircraft, you'll need to be ready to compensate for the crosswind. It's going to mess you up. This plane does not want to get off the ground, and then once it does, it wants to nose up like crazy. So with that in mind, cleared for takeoff, 3-6, Goblin. Okay, anti-skid didn't go away. Let me just click this button here. Nothing. Oh, I had to turn the parking brake off for that to go away. That's good to know. Okay, full throttle. Pretty heavy. Rotate, rudder to the left, gear up. Gears up.
Goblin 7-1, contact departure.
Flaps are up. And trim up for a 5-degree nose high climb. Okay, airborne.
Goblin 7, Kunasan, departure. Depart heading 265. Resume on navigation.
Okay, now I'm going to come back for a quick ILS landing on runway 36, I assume. So I'll go left out to the ocean. One thing you're definitely going to want to do, which I forgot, was select a diamond handoff for your RWR here. And you can bind the test keys for system test and missile launch test. I have that in the checklist, threat prime, so, or not threat prime, but diamond handoff. Okay, using the HSD to help me get oriented south, perpendicular or parallel with the runway here. And autopilot does work somewhat, but I've only been able to get it to work in heading select, so if you click this thing all the way around here to the heading you want, it takes forever. You can use this heading select plus attitude hold. This is absurd. Maybe I can map a 5-degree increment. I don't know if that works. But you know, if you really need, which this works for a long transit, this absolutely works. Get this thing moved around to south. Now my autopilot HOTAS control for heading select. This thing disappears. And let's try attitude. So it's going to pitch you up a little bit. And what you can do, as it finds your heading here, is you can, if you nose down, it's going to set you, it just doesn't want to listen to where you want to put it. So be prepared to nose down potentially lower than where you want it to hold, and it'll jump up. Now it's rolling out on my heading. Okay, so heading for this runway is 356. Reciprocal 176. I'm not going to bother to turn it all the way around again. So I'll leave it on 356 or at 176. Autopilot's off. I'll request an unrestricted approach.
Goblin 7-1, Gunasan approach. Continuing down for straight-in approach.
Looks good.
Runway 36. You and page 2931.
So I don't think my course deviation indicator needle works properly with Gunasan's TACAN here.
Altitude.
So just have to use the command steering in the HUD. Combined with the HSD. Okay, I'll put flaps to full here. There go flaps.
Goblin 7-1, contact tower for landing. Switch to 9230.
Switching tower, Goblin. Okay, probably approaching the stall speed here since I'm so heavy. There's Gunsan. Gunsan tower, Goblin, single A-10 Charlie, 10 miles south, inbound for ILS landing on 36. We'll put the gear down.
Goblin 7-1, Gunasan Tower. Continue inbound for runway 36. Report on final.
Wind is still 320, 24 knots up here. Continuing inbound, Goblin. So it looks like I'm on a good approach speed here of around 210 knots. 3 degrees nose down. Speed it up a little. Yeah, so you can see the CDI needle doesn't work here for the TACAN. Unless, see there's this here, I think this is all backup. Nope, that didn't change anything. Some speed brakes here. And then what'll happen in the A-10 versus the F-16, as far as I can tell, is it seems like any crosswind really wants to blow you off the runway. So you need to be prepared again to use a lot of rudder if there's significant crosswind. Goblin on final, runway
Goblin
36.
71, Kunasan Tower, weight 030 at 12 knots, runway 36, clear for landing, jet gear down.
Gear down, clear to land 36, Goblin. Of course it wants to float like crazy. You're not really supposed to flare. That's what I keep forgetting.